everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Inside NASCAR. As you'll see a little bit later on, our program originates this week from the art galleries of Sam Bass. But we have to start out with a sad note this week. We lost one of the greatest leaders that we have in the sport of auto racing and NASCAR Winston Cup racing in particular. T. Wayne Robertson, president of Sports Marketing Enterprises of the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, was killed in a boating accident on Wednesday of this week. And we learned that while attending a dinner honoring the past champions of NASCAR at the Charlotte Motor Speedway during the Charlotte Motor Speedway Tour. T. Wayne Robertson had been in his position for a number of years and certainly was a great leader, has done a lot for the sport of auto racing. His shoes will be tough to fill. And from all of us here at Inside NASCAR and all the fans and everyone everywhere, our condolences go out to his family.
Shocking and a huge loss are just some of the words used to describe the death of R.J. Reynolds sports marketing executive T. Wayne Robertson. T. Wayne, as he was affectionately known in racing circles, died along with 5 other people on Wednesday morning as their 28-foot aluminum crew boat collided with a much larger supply ship near Vermilion Bay, Louisiana. T. Wayne and some friends were on an apparent duck hunting excursion when the accident happened. The Coast Guard searched the area for hours for survivors, but T. Wayne was not one of them. Only one man survived the incident, suffering a broken leg. Word spread quickly about the accident to Charlotte, where NASCAR held a 50th anniversary dinner Wednesday night, where past champions and other NASCAR dignitaries were attending.
This is a night that is awfully sad for all of us in this room who know Wayne Robertson. And while we don't have any confirmation...
But soon after, confirmation was received that T. Wayne Robertson had been killed in a boating accident.
I'm shocked. I really am. I mean, I heard a little while ago they found him, and it was just so unfortunate what happened. It's such a freaky deal, going down there to have fun, to kick off the new 98 season, and something like this happens. I'm speechless, really. I'm shocked. I hurt for the family terrible.
I just saw him at the preview Saturday, and I mean, he just is always the same every time you see him, and it doesn't matter how well you know the man. He always makes you feel like, you know, hey, this is a friend of mine here, you know, and he's such a great person. And it's just a real tragedy, and it's a shock to everybody.
The morning after, news of T. Wayne's death spread to racing communities like Mooresville, North Carolina, where numerous NASCAR teams are headquartered. Everyone there expressing shock and dismay at the loss of one of NASCAR's most endearing personalities.
T. Wayne was a friend, and he was part of the sport. You know, you could really, T. Wayne, you could talk to or ask him questions, anything, and he was like a father to everybody.
It's just a tragic loss to society, not just the racing world, but society is also at a loss because, you know, he was just a great guy, a really good person in this sport for a long time, and has done a lot for the sport. And it's just a tragic loss, really. Everybody has a heavy heart, and the prayers are all out for his family right now.
And for many people in NASCAR, T. Wayne was family. Ironically, crew chief Paul Andrews remembers how T. Wayne was there for him after Alan Kulwicki's untimely death.
I believe he helped the whole team kind of get through that some, you know, and kept Winston involved, and Winston had a lot of support for us, and that kind of really sticks out in my mind.
I think T. Wayne's probably done as much or more for Winston Cup racing with his association with Winston and the special incentives and awards that their company did for Winston Cup racing. I think I'm certainly saddened by it, and it's tragic. You know, I feel for his family and for everyone involved.
In this sport, a lot of people wish you luck. A lot of people say, hi, how you doing? You know, and it's, you know, you almost become immune to it. But when T. Wayne asked you how you were doing or wished you good luck, he was very sincere. And, you know, I mean, we all know he's in a better place now, but, you know, we weren't ready for him to leave here yet.
T. Wayne's contributions to the sport of NASCAR are much too long to list here, but they are immeasurable. He had a direct impact on why the sport is as huge as it is today. While he's gone, his legacy remains. NASCAR may be celebrating its 50th anniversary, but it will surely remember T. Wayne at the same time. In a statement released by NASCAR President Bill France, he called T. Wayne a great personal and professional friend. His death will be felt by everyone involved in NASCAR racing. T. Wayne is survived by his wife Dana and his 2 daughters. T. Wayne Robertson, dead at the age of 48.
Well, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Inside NASCAR. We're at Sam Bass Illustrations and Design. His gallery is located on the grounds of the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Now, before we get into today's program, we've had a lot of letters, calls about my condition and why am I wearing this cervical. Well, I had surgery back on December 10th, and it came from an old racing accident back in 1965, and the disc just kept degenerating, and finally about mid-year last year, one of them ruptured. So we put up with the pain through the rest of the year and planned the surgery, and it was done on December 10th by Dr. Greg Rosenfeld of Hickory, North Carolina. He went in and fused C6 and 7 together, put a plate in there and a couple of screws, so hopefully it'll be as good as new. I've been wearing this thing for about 4 weeks, got about 3 more weeks to go, and hopefully everything will be okay after that, and we really appreciate your concern and interest in it. Well, Sam Bass is part of our program today, and we have lots more for you in this 1 hour of Inside NASCAR.
Second place in the Winston Cup points race is no small feat. For Dale Jarrett, 1998 offers an opportunity to take his Robert Yates team the extra step as he looks for a third Daytona 500 victory and first ever Winston Cup title.
We were progressing as a team that could win a championship. We know that we put ourselves in that position 2 years, and this third year would really be a time that we could go after it, and I feel like that right from the very beginning we had a good shot at it.
The color of speed is usually a blur. So to keep a sponsor happy, you need to stand out in the crowd. We'll visit with Motorsports illustrator Sam Bass as he shows us what it takes to design a NASCAR race car. After Bobby Hillen's departure from Jasper Motorsports, he took some time to regroup. Now he's returning with his own Busch Series team, and he's joined up with some real heavy hitters. You'll get that story plus a whole lot more in this 1 hour edition of Inside NASCAR.
Well, let's put the news right at the top of the show today. Here's Tyler Potter.
With the Daytona 500 just a month away, testing at the World Center of Racing becomes increasingly more important. On Monday, the first day of the last GM test session, defending Winston Cup champ Jeff Gordon was fastest at 47.665 seconds or 188.818 miles per hour. Tuesday, Bobby Hamilton blistered the 2.5-mile track to the tune of 188.992 miles an hour. Now at GM's first test session earlier in the month, Terry Labonte was quickest, leading all Chevys with an average speed of 188.419 miles per hour.
I think we're in pretty good shape. You know, of course, when you go to Daytona and you go down there and test and you look around and everybody's there and everybody's got 2 or 3 cars and they go down there 2 times and spend 6 days testing, it's obvious that's the biggest race, and it's obvious that everybody puts so much effort into that event. That's a tough race to win, you know, because everybody is really geared up for it.
Speaking of Gordon and Labonte, they'll be saluted by Kellogg's in this 50th anniversary season. The cereal company announced this week plans to unveil 2 limited edition collector's boxes featuring past and present stock car champions Red Byron and Labonte. They'll be in boxes of Kellogg's Corn Flakes, Terry's sponsor the last 5 years, while Gordon will be honored on Kellogg's Frosted Mini Wheats boxes. As for the Fords, Robert Presley set the pace over the 3 days of their test. His average speed of 188.367 miles per hour was more than a half-mile an hour faster than that of Rick Mass's Taurus. Presley was in a Thunderbird. The Taurus has no doubt made progress, but there's still a long way to go.
We are definitely behind, but Daytona's coming up pretty quick. All we can do is just keep working as hard as we can and gain all the speed. And the motor shop is like putting out some killer motors, so we just got to get the body and the aero going, and we'll be all right.
In other Ford news, Mike Beam has been promoted to Chief Operating Officer of Bill Elliott Racing after having served as crew chief since 1995. Joe Garreau now assumes those responsibilities on the 94 team. John Andretti made his 98 Pontiac debut in grand style. His posted time of 47.744 seconds and speed of 188.505 miles per hour led the Grand Prix contingent. Andretti won last year's Pepsi 400 at Daytona. He's hoping for similar success in the Bud Shootout. Andretti will pilot the number 50 Chevy of Ricky Craven in that race. That's because he can't drive his current STP Pontiac because the car doesn't display Busch decals. It'll be a reunion of sorts for Andretti, who's back with his crew chief from last year, Tony Furr. With Kevin Triplett assuming the job of Director of Operations for NASCAR late last year, there was a need for a new director of information in Winston Cup racing. Enter Jeff Motley, a 29-year-old Virginia native whose love for the sport goes back to his childhood days when he attended his first race at the age of 4.
You know, Kevin did a great job, and, you know, I've known Kevin for about 8 or 9 years, and I remember when Kevin was a sports writer at the Gaston Gazette in Gastonia, North Carolina, and he and I have followed very similar paths. We both came from Virginia. We both wrote for small newspapers covering auto racing, and I think Kevin was 29 when he took this job, and I'm 29 now, so, you know, I think we followed similar paths, and the great thing is I've got Kevin right down the hall, so if I need him, I try not to bug him too much or bother him too much, but, you know, I think he's just been a great asset to NASCAR, and his new role as Director of Operations, I think Kevin's going to be even better for our department and our organization.
And finally, the Craftsman Truck Series takes center stage this weekend as it begins its 4th season of competition from the Walt Disney World Speedway in Orlando. The Chevy Truck Challenge will feature 36 trucks, including those of last year's winner, Joe Ruttman, and defending series champion Jack Sprague. Following the event, there's a 2.5-month break before the series' second race, April 4th at Homestead.
To kick off the season each year, the Charlotte Motor Speedway holds a media tour. They've been doing it for many, many years. Media members come from all over the country to go on this tour. They'll visit many of the NASCAR Winston Cup facilities as well as the Busch Series teams, and they'll have press conferences and a lot of different things that goes on during the tour that can just learn what's going on inside the sport. And, of course, our inside NASCAR staff is there, too.
The biggest news out of this year's CMS Media Tour is that Darrell Waltrip has finally secured a sponsor to replace Western Auto. Builder Square Stores will be on DW's Monte Carlos in '98, and we'll have more with the 3-time champ on his new deal next week. But first, let's take a look at some of the other big stories out of the 1998 Bell South Media Tour. Johnny Benson finally confirmed that Cheerios will be a sponsor in 1998 and announced that former Mark Martin head wrench Steve Meal will be his crew chief. The Cheerios deal had been rumored ever since Benson announced last season that he was joining Roush Racing. Meanwhile, Meal will work with Benson while still serving as general manager for both Benson and Ted Musgrave, just 2 of the drivers in the now 5-car Roush stable.
You know, he's got all them other great drivers within the organization that we could talk back and forth, will help me out tremendously, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to, you know, do the same thing to help them out in areas that we all need help in, and I think this is going to be a tremendous opportunity.
Representatives of all 5 Roush teams were on hand when the nearly 200 media members on the tour visited Roush's Mooresville operation. It was just one of many stops, and like all the other Ford shops visited, the topic of the new Taurus was a hot one. Robert Yates had been vocal at his place over what he perceived as a lack of support from Roush over concessions he felt were needed on the Taurus from NASCAR. But Roush said all the Ford teams are in the same boat, and he doesn't want to jump the gun in asking for help.
If there's a reason why he wanted those changes made that didn't reflect itself on what the cars could do at this time, and he'd been willing to share it with us, we may have been able to support it. But being pragmatic about it, we didn't see the basis for asking NASCAR for that change at this time, particularly in realizing that if they gave us that, if we said this is what we've got to have, and they gave it to us, they may not give us the thing that we really need when we decide, you know, what's going to be beneficial and what a problem is. We weren't able to understand and to support the argument that said that this was what needed to be done now.
Besides the obvious problems of getting the Taurus competitive, Dale Jarrett's crew chief, Todd Parrott, says his crew has spent so much time in development that they haven't had time to build up their usual stable of cars. In fact, they only have 1 Taurus race ready, with the season only 3 weeks away.
Normally, on a normal season, you're sitting here with 2 or 3 Daytona cars, and your Rockingham, Atlanta, Richmond, all them type cars sitting here ready to go. Had we not had a body style change, you know, we would have been in that situation. We were sitting here with 14 race cars ready to go on the racetrack, and we've had to cut the bodies off of every one of them and start all over.
Of course, all the controversy was welcome fare for the reporters and photographers covering the tour. It gave them juicy material for their columns and reports, especially since many of them don't have regular access to the NASCAR world and use the media tour as a place to stock up their notebooks.
We're trying to do 2 stories a day. We're getting them back to Lynchburg and running them throughout this week, and hopefully saving over some stuff for maybe the following week and even a few weeks into the season. So we're trying to get a lot of things in these next 2 or 3 days that'll carry us for a while.
the teams like it because they can stop what they're doing, take care of 185 media requests at one time, then go back to work during a busy time of the year. The media love it because they can get all this done in a 3 or 4 day period and be ready for the season.
With NASCAR expanding into new markets, that means new interest from their media outlets. Donnie Carg and Kenny Roberts were rookies on the tour this year who sent stories back to their hometown of St. Louis, one of those new markets in the NASCAR family.
The people get a lot of information through television, and they are informed. And if you're not informed as someone who's passing along information, they'll stick you to the wall. So I came down here looking for information, making contacts so that I can provide information in St. Louis that is good information, up to date. It's from the people who are making the news. So that's what I'm down here for.
You learn a lot. You meet these drivers. There are some drivers from the St. Louis area. You get to know them. You get to see what these guys are really like without their helmets and their racing suits and how accessible they are and how nice they are. And I've enjoyed it so far.
But the guy who got the award for furthest distance traveled was Ed Hovink from the Netherlands.
A lot of information which I can use for a longer period in Europe, but not only for the Netherlands where I come from, but also from other countries. They are interested in material from NASCAR, and they don't know the way how to get it, they don't know the logistics, and they come to me in the first place, and I try to absorb all the questions and to try to get the right answer for them.
In all, this year's media tour encompassed roughly 20 stops over a 4-day period, with everything from group shots at a string of drivers to press conferences and dinners. Plenty enough for any news hound to tide them over till Speed Weeks begins.
It's time now for the Tech Talk part of our program, and it deals this week with the power steering pump.
Hi, my name is Eric John Giordano. I'm Marketing Director for CV Products. Our company supplies race engine components and accessories to a variety of the professional engine builders in the country, including the NASCAR series. What we're going to look at today is power steering pumps. Something that's of interest to fans and racers alike is the fact that all the way up to NASCAR Winston Cup, race teams have traditionally used a stock Saginaw-style power steering pump. This is an example right here in my hands. What we have invested 12 to 16 months of R&D on recently at CV Products is our engineers have worked with some outside contractors to develop this new CV225 race power steering pump. You can see a comparison between the old style pump and the new race power steering pump. Cosmetically and dimensionally, they're the same pump. This is a refurbished unit, which is traditional in the market. This is a brand new, completely new casting. But, as I said, cosmetically, they are the same. What we've done with the CV225 power steering pump is change the innards in the pump to adjust the volume, pressure, and flow for a racing application. That's never been done before in a power steering pump. It actually adjusts at a variable rate the pressure and flow from low RPM to high RPM specifically for a race engine on the racetrack. What does that mean ultimately to racers? We've seen as high as 10 horsepower gain simply from switching to the stock old style unit to this new race power steering pump, and they also operate up to 150 degrees cooler, which means that it's working more efficiently. And the neat thing about that is that it will provide a bigger benefit to a typical Saturday night late model stock racer than it will to a Winston Cup team, because if you pick up 5 to 10 horsepower, that makes a much bigger difference in terms of percentages on a, say, 330 horsepower engine versus a 700 plus NASCAR Winston Cup engine. And it's a simple bolt-in replacement for your stock Saginaw-style pump that most teams are currently using.
We need to take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll talk to Bobby Hillen about his plans for 1998. A little later on in the program, we'll talk to Dale Jarrett. And, of course, we got the mailbox and lots more, so you stay with us. From all of us here at Inside NASCAR, we congratulate Bobby Allison, who is being inducted into the North Carolina Motorsports Hall of Fame at Mooresville, North Carolina this weekend. Bobby is only the second inductee into that Hall of Fame. Richard Petty was the first. Back in the 80s, Bobby Allison and Bobby Hillen Jr. were partners, or teammates you might say, at Stavola Brothers race team. And it was in the heyday of Bobby Hillen's career. He won at Talladega during that era. But in recent years, things haven't gone too well for Bobby Hillen. But he's trying to revive his career now and has some things going for 1998. Tyler Potter has his story.
Last we heard of Bobby Hillen Jr., he had been released by Jasper Motorsports back in June. The news didn't come as a surprise to many, considering Bobby's best finish was a 20th at Talladega last May. 4 months went by, then came the announcement that Bobby had formed his own Busch team for '98, teaming up with 3 St. Louis Cardinal baseball players, Andy Bennis, Danny Schaefer, and Gary Gaetti. Since then, 2 more players have come aboard, in addition to some area businessmen, as well as a politician.
Well, you know, basically what happened is I got to be friends with Danny Schaefer through Motor Racing Outreach. That's the ministry that comes to the races, and we have a conference at the end of the year. Same people that hold their conference, or hold our conference, holds the baseball conferences. And so Danny was a race fan. He came to our conference. We got to be friends, and this was 5 years ago, and we've just continued the friendship. And actually last year, Danny brought Gary Gaetti to a race in Atlanta. And they were kind of on our trailer, wearing our hats, pulling for us. And then this year they kind of got more involved, and they gave me this jersey. And, you know, they called and said, hey, we want to get involved. But actually, I was still with Jasper at the time. And so Jasper let me go. And, you know, really there was a lot of, you know, deciding what am I going to do, where am I going to go. And that's kind of the start of how we got together.
It's a fresh start for Hillen, who's no doubt been frustrated by his lack of success over the years. His one and only Winston Cup win came at Talladega back in 1986, where he became the youngest driver at 22 ever to win on a superspeedway. That year, Hillen finished 9th in points, a career best. Since then, it's been a steady decline for the Texan as he bounced from team to team. Now, after 8 months away, Hillen sees this as the perfect opportunity for a comeback.
The only chance I had to get back in Winston Cup with a winning effort is to take a step down, go into the Busch Series, and basically have a no-compromise attitude towards winning. I've got to go out as a driver and win races. If I can't win races with this team, I've got to put somebody else in the car that can. And so the goals are 2 equal goals. 1, go out and build a foundation for me to be a winner again. And 2, find out if that's possible. And, you know, I totally believe it is, or I wouldn't be doing all this.
What are your expectations? Is it safe to say you guys still feel Bobby is still on the upside of his career?
I believe that. Yeah, I'm from every indication that we've had, not just alone being at the races and enjoying the whole scene and being able to, you know, be part of the whole environment of, you know, NASCAR racing, but we want to win. I mean, you know, from what I've seen of the cars and the shop and the crew and Bobby and listening to him talk and everything, I mean, I'm anticipating running a really strong season and winning some races.
Believe it or not, this isn't the first time Hillen started a Busch team. Back in '88, he was part owner and driver as well. In 16 races, Hillen had a win and 9 top 10s, despite juggling much of the responsibility. He's hoping to draw from that experience this time around.
Well, you know, I think dealing with people, you learn a lot about dealing with people and basically having the responsibility. And, you know, a lot of people have said you can't own a team and drive it at the same time because you've got too many things on your mind. And I really kept that in the front of my mind as I've gone into this. I've tried to have the kind of relationship with Gene and with all the people in the front office and as to how the responsibilities are going to fall out with each person so that when we get ready to race, I can focus on driving the car. And I think that from that standpoint, I'm going to be more focused as a driver because I'm going to see all that they're doing during a week. It's going to make me feel at ease knowing, hey, man, you got great stuff. Everybody's ready. Now it's up to you to get out there and get the job done.
But to get the job done, Hillen Racing needs a major sponsor. As of now, they don't have one. And with the season opener in Daytona just a month off, time is of the essence. The goal of running a full schedule in '98 won't be achieved unless they get the financial backing. If it doesn't come through by the 4th race, the team will be forced to run a limited schedule the rest of the way.
If you haven't heard about it, you certainly will, that NASCAR is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. And each week, we're going to have something special for you. And this week, we focus on the Martinsville Speedway, a NASCAR landmark.
Let's
continue our journey through 50 years of NASCAR with a look at one of the oldest tracks on the circuit, the half-mile Martinsville Speedway in Virginia, led by Clay Earls. The first NASCAR race at Martinsville took place on September 25, 1949. The track was dirt then, but it was no trouble for Red Byron, who drove his Parks Novelty 49 Olds to victory, 2 races away from becoming NASCAR's first champion in the strictly stock division. On May 16, 1954, 24 of America's finest stock car racers lined up at Martinsville for a shot at the $1,000 winner's check. Some drivers had some very creative ways of trying to get to the finish line first. That's Arden Mounts in his 52 Hudson Hornet. At the end of 200 laps, Jim Paschal survived the Battle of Martinsville for the victory in front of a record crowd of 8,500. Another big winner at Martinsville was Lee Petty driving the number 42 Oldsmobile. He won on the Virginia short track in 1959 en route to his 3rd NASCAR championship. His other 2 titles came in 1954 and 58. In his career, which spanned 16 years, the elder statesman of the Petty family won 55 times. Son Richard is the winningest driver at Martinsville with a total of 15. On September 22, 1968, Hill Yarborough driving the Wood Brothers number 21, and Buddy Baker made up the front row. On the very first lap, the 2 tangled, causing this melee in turn 1. Yarborough rallied back for runner-up. Baker had to settle for 22nd after his Dodge burned to the ground on pit road. On that day in 1968, they were all chasing the king. Richard Petty led a total of 354 of the 500 laps for his 14th win in the 1968 season. The half-mile Martinsville Speedway, 50 years and still going strong with NASCAR.
Martinsville Speedway has always been one of the most popular ones, and like most other racetracks, they're adding on to their seating capacity, getting ready for the 1998 season. We need to take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll talk to Sam Bass. A little bit later on, we'll have the mailbox, Dale Jarrett, and lots more, so you stay with us.
To know that people consider us a team that they have to beat on Sundays and beat for the championship is a really nice feeling.
Have you ever wondered about how those fancy designs and paint schemes on race cars come about? They don't just happen. That's one of the services that's offered here at Sam Bass Illustration and Design. They offer that service to the sponsors, design the paint schemes and the logos on the race cars, even to the drivers' uniforms, to the helmets and the crew uniforms. Phil Wers has that story.
Most racing fans are familiar with the distinctive artwork of Charlotte's Sam Bass. His creative style and unique ability always seem to capture the very essence of the world of NASCAR racing. His work is enjoyed by drivers and fans alike, but aside from his colorful artwork you see on sale, he's also asked many times to design, develop, and produce new ideas for various race teams. Recently, Sam was asked to come up with a new look for the Pennzoil car. Remember last year, Johnny Benson drove this number 30 Pontiac for Bahari Racing. Of course, now the sponsor is going with Winston Cup rookie Steve Park and Dale Earnhardt Inc. on the Winston Cup Series.
Well, the Pennzoil folks wanted to establish a brand new identity. You know, they've been in the sport for a number of years and essentially have always had solid yellow cars with maybe just a little bit of black on the cars. And what we wanted to do was to give the car a whole new presence on the racetrack, maybe more of a sinister, racier look, so to speak. And of course, you know, black works real well, and it ties in with Pennzoil's corporate colors.
I guess with Dale Earnhardt too, being black.
Yeah, Dale Earnhardt car should have a little bit of black on it.
So Sam went to work, showing us how he took the Pennzoil colors and logo and transformed his ideas onto paper.
Preliminary thing, this is kind of how I start out. I'll just, you know, block off the colors and everything else and figure out where everything's going to go, and you know, the pinstriping on this car, just the little red accents adds so much to the design.
Kind of highlights it a little bit.
Yeah, it just makes you know, it's always nice to have a third color in there if you got two strong corporate colors, and you know, Pennzoil's got a great logo, because it's got striking contrast between the yellow and the black, and then the red makes a, makes a real beautiful accent. And the numbers and everything else. I mean, originally this car was going to be number 14, which was really a cool number, but the number 1, it just says something.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, having a single-digit number, just allows you more possibilities for a cleaner read than a double-digit number does. You do this like real quick as a preliminary, and you kind of have a real good idea about where you're gonna end up. And I'll do probably five or six different layouts, and then proceed on to doing final finished artwork.
And then finally, voila! Sam gives Pennzoil the finished designs, from what the car will look like, right down to Steve Park's fire suits and even the team's car haulers. And we at Inside NASCAR were the first media folks to see the new Pennzoil Monte Carlo as it was wheeled into a Charlotte photo studio in December for an exclusive picture-taking session with the driver of the #1 car, Steve Park. And Steve knows all about Sam Bass's work because it was Sam who also designed Steve's AC Delco Chevy that he drove last season in the NASCAR Busch Series. And according to Steve, Sam Bass has hit the mark again.
Well, first off, we got to thank Sam. He's a very talented individual, and he's done a great job working closely with us and the Pennzoil people to give us the new look, the new Pennzoil look, and we're real proud of it at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated.
And Park knows with that #1 on the side of the car, there may be a little added pressure, but he says that's an issue he's dealt with before.
Well, I don't know if people realize it, but I used to drive a #1 modified car up north, and we had a lot of success with that, and I drove a Pennzoil truck in New Hampshire, which everybody remembers. So it seems like it's all coming around full circle, and it seems like it was destined to happen. So we're real happy and looking forward to getting started and going out there and mixing up with the guys and just trying to learn as much as we can about Winston Cup racing, gain some respect, and try to take the Pennzoil car to the front.
What was Pennzoil's final reaction to the final product?
Well, they were very, very excited. The president of the company said it was the most exciting car design that Pennzoil's ever had at a news conference when they unveiled the cars. The chance to carry on and move forward with them on something new and exciting such as this, I mean, it's just a great opportunity, and I'm really, really proud to have that chance.
Now, Sam also had a chance to design what the inside NASCAR car would look like on the Winston Cup Series. Awesome job, Sam. Now all we need is a driver and a sponsor.
Well, thanks, Sam, for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us here on the Inside NASCAR, and thank you, Phil. Coming up right after this break, we'll have the mailbox, and there's lots more coming your way on this edition of Inside NASCAR, so you stay with us. The Inside NASCAR mailbox is brought to you by Miller Lite. Our question today is from Steve Layer from Chesapeake, Virginia. Will NASCAR allow the Pontiac teams to increase the width of their wheelbase as the street Pontiacs are doing?
Hi, I'm George Gazelski, shop foreman for the Team Tabasco Pontiac. Wheelbase is 110 inches on a Winston Cup car, measured from the center line of the rear axle to the center line of the front axle. Tread width is measured from the center of the left front tire to the center of the right front tire. 60¼ inch minimum requirement to 60½ inch maximum requirement, which will be required on all the 98 Winston Cup cars. Here on the 98 Grand Prix Street version, the front tread width is 61¾ inches. Thank you, Steve, for writing in. That was a very good question.
If you have a question for the Inside NASCAR mailbox, write to us at Inside NASCAR. Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Lite jacket and a cap and shirt from Chase Authentics, the authentic trackside apparel of NASCAR.
From all of us here at Inside NASCAR, we congratulate Dave Marcus, who was voted the NMPA Spirit Award. It's voted on each year by the National Motorsports Press Association members. Coming up right after this break, the NMPA Driver of the Year, Dale Jarrett. One of Dale Jarrett's 15 wins in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series came in the 1996 Coca-Cola 600 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and Sam Bass captured that moment with this limited edition print. DJ won 7 races in 1997. What are the prospects for 1998 with the new Taurus? Stephanie Boyd-Durner talked to Dale this week about that.
If there was any doubt that 1997 was a dream season for Dale Jarrett, consider the fact that in one single year, he nearly equaled his previous career win total. Heading into 97, Jarrett had 8 career wins, and by year's end, he had scored another 7. Add to that 20 top 5s and 23 top 10s, and it's almost hard to believe that Jarrett still came up 14 points shy of the Winston Cup title.
We had a season that was worthy of winning the championship in most years except for 1997. So but you have to race, you know, to what your competitors are doing, and you know, it all comes down to whoever has the fewest problems. You know, of the championship contenders that are going to be there, they're all going to have a certain number of top 5s and top 10s and victories to a certain extent. But the guy that has the fewest finishes over probably 25th to 30th, that's who's going to win. And as it turns out, Jeff and his team had fewer of those problems.
One of Jarrett's most controversial problems came when he was black flagged at Watkins Glen for smoke coming out of the back end of his car. Turns out there was no problem. Jarrett dropped from 12th in the running order to finish 32nd, a difference of 60 championship points, more than enough to have overcome his eventual 14-point deficit for the title.
Did Watkins Glen cost you the championship this year?
Well, we can look at it that way, but I think every competitor, Jeff and Mark and myself, can look back somewhere that a decision in some way or another would have cost each of us points somewhere. But that certainly was a critical point as we look back. You know, we can look at some other races that we cost ourselves to along the way, and it wouldn't have taken much for us to win the championship. But you know, the only reason to ever really look back is to gain something from it. And what we have to do is just try to ensure that in 1998 and years to come that we don't let the same things take us out of the championship.
If Jarrett wants to have a shot at the title this year, Watkins Glen has proof enough that every race counts. That means, like all the other Ford drivers, he can't afford much margin of error in the transition from the Thunderbird to the new Ford Taurus, a transition that right now still has a lot of unknowns.
It makes it more difficult, and it certainly keeps your expectations down a little bit as to what you want to accomplish, because we have no track time basically in testing this car, and I think that's our biggest concern is what's going to happen. We know that it has too much drag, that it's not going to qualify real well, especially at Daytona and Talladega. But my biggest concern is what's really going to happen whenever we get it around other cars. And not that Chevrolet and Pontiac didn't go through the same thing somewhat, but they had more time that they developed the car, and we just don't have enough track time to really know what to expect. And you know, if we can start off with our setups that worked with the Thunderbird, can we start there as a good starting point and be relatively close? So a lot of unknowns, and I think that's what has us a little uneasy, especially after the last 2 years, knowing that we were progressing as a team that could win a championship. We know that we put ourselves in that position 2 years, and this third year would really be a time that we could go after it, and I feel like that right from the very beginning we had a good shot at it. But we still feel that, you know, we're going after the championship, but we really don't know what to expect until we get in and run some 400- and 500-mile races.
Regardless of what the Taurus does, Jarrett has clearly emerged over the past 2 seasons as one of the top championship contenders. It took him nearly 10 years at the Winston Cup level to get to that position. At 42 years old, he's not about to take it for granted.
To be honest with you, to be a part of NASCAR Winston Cup racing, I was, first of all, just really thrilled to just be in it and be a part of it. I always want to win at whatever I'm doing, but if the plans were for me to only win 1 race a year, then I could accept that. I could be satisfied with that as long as I knew I was doing everything that I could possibly do with the talents that I was given. So to have what has happened the last 2 years is just a tremendous thrill to me. I can't express to you what it really means to me to be able to go out each and every week and know that I have a chance at winning the race. It's something that I wish that the majority of the people that I know out there that give all that they have in them to try to make it in this sport. And I know that there's many, many that don't ever get the opportunities that I've had to experience the thrills that I've had. I wish they could experience that, because there's nothing like that accomplishment to knowing that the hard work and effort that you put forth has paid off.
Well, thanks, Dale and Stephanie. The 1998 NASCAR season kicks off this weekend with the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series at the Walt Disney World Speedway in Orlando, Florida. And we'll have coverage of that for you right here on Inside NASCAR next week. And we have lots more for you, too. So let's take a look at what we do have for you here on TNN.
Bodine and Keller, two respectable racers. Jack Sprague, a defending series champion. All three heading into the 1998 season without a major sponsor. We'll talk with the guys who are still on the search for major backing in '98. The NASCAR Busch Series hits Daytona for 2 days of testing and preparation for the Napa 300. You'll get the story on who was fast at the beach. In celebration of NASCAR's 50th anniversary, we'll look back on the growing years of NASCAR when Petty, Pearson, and Baker became household names.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for this show. We hope you enjoyed it, and our thanks to Sam Bass and his entire staff for allowing us to show you around their facility. And you join us again here on TNN for more on Inside NASCAR. You know, as NASCAR celebrates their 50th anniversary this year, it was supposed to be a year-long celebration, great joy and great memories. And the celebration will continue, even though with the loss of T. Wayne Robertson and starting it off on a sad note, he would want the celebration to go on. He would want the things that he has contributed to the sport over the years, and they have been many. He would want those to be amplified by what other people have done. And he certainly will be missed. And again, our condolences go out to he and his family. God bless you, T. Wayne, and your entire family. Rest in peace.
The 1998 Team Simpson Racing Catalog is now available. For information, call 800-71-RACIN or visit the website at SimpsonRaceProducts.com and join Team Simpson today. Ground transportation provided by Glovell, the official van conversion company of NASCAR. Glovell, the choice of NASCAR tracks, teams, and drivers. Call 800-445-2825 for a dealer near you. Communications provided by Racing Radios, the two-way radio provider of the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, the Busch Grand National Series, and the Craftsman Truck Series.